edition of the Breakdown. I'm your host, Dujunnea Bland, and what a weekend of NFL football it was. Definitely exciting, had some surprises, and it's only week 2, and yet the injuries are mounting for some teams and could change the dynamic of their season, but definitely changes the landscape of some of these divisions. And when you look at this thing, starting with the Pittsburgh Steelers losing Ben Roethlisberger with the elbow injury, he's going to need surgery, and he is done, out for the season. In comes Mason Rudolph. And what does this mean for the Pittsburgh Steelers now? Well, Mason Rudolph comes in and does a pretty good job, an admirable job. 12 of 19, 112 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. Thought he managed the game well, came in and kept those guys in it. And that's what you want to see from your quarterback. And Mason Rudolph has a unique situation in the sense that Ben takes a day off or so during the week, and he has an opportunity to work with the ones. And he probably gets the most work of any backup with the ones. And it showed in this game. They were able to make a pretty seamless transition and stay in the game and have that opportunity to win it down the stretch. Were unable to do that, but it's definitely something that is a positive for them. And going forward, I really like their chances. It really changes the dynamic of their offense now. Ben, a more pocket passer, a guy who's not known for running, but can get out of the way. He's not the fastest guy by any means, but he definitely can make some plays with his legs if necessary. But Mason Rudolph is definitely a more mobile quarterback. And I think that adds some things to their repertoire on offense. It's going to allow them to get their playmakers in different crossing patterns and things of that nature to create mismatches and the defense to get guys open to make big plays and to get those chunk plays that Pittsburgh likes to do. And I thought Mason did a good job of throwing the ball down the field, trying to get the ball to Juju Smith-Schuster. And I expect them to do some of these things to move the pocket and create a different element as far as their offense goes. And really, I think they'll be fine. The division is tough, but I think out of all the teams that have to bring in their backup, they're going to be fine. As far as bringing in their backup quarterback, that is going to be the starter for the rest of the season. So we'll see how this thing pans out for them and whether they can make a positive out of a negative coming into week 3. Drew Brees messes up his thumb, and he's going to be out for 6 to 8 weeks. Going to have a little surgery procedure on that. And in comes Teddy Bridge over troubled water. Now, he didn't look so good in coming in relief for Drew Brees, and that's understandable. Like I said before, with Mason Rudolph, he gets a little bit more time. Most of the time, backups do not get that much time with the ones, and you just hope that you can come in and keep things going and try to put some points on the board. And I thought Teddy did a pretty good job considering the circumstances. With that said, he missed a lot of balls, and it showed that he hasn't had a lot of work with these guys. I think they have a good situation going forward, though, and I know a lot of people are questioning whether they should bring in Taysom Hill or stay with Bridgewater. And I think Bridgewater is the right decision to make, but I don't expect Sean Payton to hang with Bridgewater for a long period of time if he is grossly unproductive. Because let's face it, they're a playoff team. They definitely want to not only get back to the playoffs, but they want that shot that they feel that was taken away from them in that NFC Championship game to be in the Super Bowl. So they're not going to allow this momentum to steamroll out of control and cause them to be behind into the division, especially in a division that is really, truly now up for grabs. You got inconsistencies in the NFC South with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The Atlanta Falcons aren't great, and the Carolina Panthers aren't doing well either. So this division is definitely up for grabs, and I expect that if there's not good production from Bridgewater, they will go to Hill. But I think Bridgewater would do a pretty decent job there. Now, for the Dallas Cowboys, they get a pretty convincing win against Washington Redskins team that just trying to find themselves, find an identity. Um, and Michael Gallup gets hurt. He's going to be out for 2 to 4 weeks. He's going to get a procedure on that meniscus. Says there a meniscus tear. He's going to get a procedure on that to trim it up a little bit. He'll be back in 2 to 4 weeks, and I don't expect the Cowboys to miss a beat on offense. There's so many things that they can do, and honestly, Kellen Moore deserves a lot of credit over the first 2 weeks. Um, just putting guys in positions to make plays, the creativity on offense, something that Dallas fans and other media pundits have complained about with the kind of mediocre play calling from the Cowboys in years past. And they're taking advantage of a lot of Dak's strengths, and I don't expect Michael Gallup's being out for 2 or 4 weeks to affect what they're doing on offense. The Eagles, I think they're the ones that have gotten bit by the injury bug the biggest here. In that Sunday night matchup, they're missing two of their best wide receivers. Guys are in and out defensively and offensively and in and out of the medical tent. It really showed up on the field and really was, in my opinion, the factor and the reason why they were unable to win the ball game on Sunday night. Um, Atlanta's not consistent enough or good enough, and they managed to squeak one out. But against a good football team, they're going to take an L. And against a fully loaded Eagles team with all of their weapons, they would have lost that game. Um, the concerns you have there is just over time and how it's going to affect them going into these next couple of games. They definitely need more offensive firepower and more production from those guys at wide receiver. But you can't have Carson Wentz taking all these shots. Too many shots, too many hits. And with the back situation he had last year, you really concerned about his health. And got to remember, there's no more Nick Foles here. It's Nate Sudfeld. And he's a pretty good quarterback, but he's no Nick Foles. At least he hasn't proven that. And so the Eagles need to find a way to protect Carson Wentz. And on top of that, they need to be a little bit more creative in getting the talent they are going to be able to put on the field, get them open, and allow Carson Wentz to find these guys and get this offense moving, kind of like they did late in the game there. Was that design or was that a little bit of a collapse on the Atlanta Falcons defense part? It's probably a little bit of both, but it's going to be interesting to see how the Philadelphia Eagles operate and what they do to put together a combination so they can continue to win football games and keep pace with the division-leading Dallas Cowboys. Now that brings me to taking a look at the NFC South. Now, this division, quite interesting division, especially the Saints last year doing what they did. Carolina looked good. Atlanta looked good in spots. Many thought that it'd be a three-team race at least. Saints, Panthers, and Falcons. And now with Drew Brees going down, you look at the Buccaneers, they're still trying to figure out who they are and whether they can get consistency at the quarterback position. Cam Newton not looking like himself. Still looks like he's not fully healthy from that shoulder injury. The inaccuracies that you see with some of his throws that if you go back and look at early last year's tape, he's knocking those throws down. and he's missing a lot of things high, and guys are open. So he's not 100%, and he definitely doesn't look like himself over the first 2 weeks. Again, we talk about Drew Brees going down. The Falcons still reeling from the same problems from last year, inconsistencies on defense. You have uncharacteristic interceptions being thrown by Matt Ryan. Those things have to be cleaned up as well. And who is going to take reins of this division? And really, especially with Drew Brees going down, this division is now up for grabs, totally up for grabs. And it's honestly right there for the Falcons to take. The question is, can they do it? They have to be better on defense, have to do a better job at getting guys off the field on third down. I believe they're somewhere at 50% in third down conversion rates of opposing teams' offenses. Matt Ryan has to do a better job of not turning the football over. And we know they have the offensive firepower at receiver, but they have to find a way to run the football. Let's be real. They're not the New England Patriots and can drop back 40 and 50 times a game and think you're going to consistently win ball games. It's not going to happen. And I think we've seen enough of that with Matt Ryan throwing ill-advised interceptions that at times have turned into points for the opposing team, which have cost them football games. And they have to do better in that department. The Bucs are the Bucs. And unfortunately, I know Jameis Winston gets a lot of heat for the mistakes that he makes, and rightfully so. But this guy's had coordinator after coordinator after coordinator, and that can be tough for a quarterback. And I'll liken that to a Jason Campbell, another guy who never was able to reach his full potential because of the amount of rotating guys and coaches at the coordinator position. You're having to learn new offense over and over and over again. You never master one. And I'm not saying Jameis is a great quarterback, but he's definitely shown that he can be better than what he's shown as of late. And hey, the Carolina Panther game was a prime example of that. He made some throws that you expect to see from Jameis Winston. But the question is, can he consistently do that? And he hasn't shown that yet. So if they can put that together, they have an opportunity to battle it out for this division. But right now, the Falcons by default, just on talent, just on having a starting quarterback, are the ones that have the lead as in who's going to win this division. But it's definitely going to be one that's it's going to be fun to watch. I think these teams in the division here, when they get to their division games, are going to beat each other up, and that's going to be the deciding factor on who wins this division. So it's going to be who does the best against your divisional foe. And I know that's kind of cliche, but I don't think any other division is more important. It's more important than this division here in the NFC South. Maybe the AFC South. But the NFC South, most definitely, you have to get these divisional games if you want a shot at making the playoffs, because I think it's going to be really tight in the NFC for teams to make the wild card spot. So, which makes for great football to watch. So it's going to be a fun season, and we'll see what goes down in week 3 and who starts to separate themselves in that division and start to look like a consistent football team that can make a run. And that brings me to my final thought. You know, oftentimes players get blamed for not making plays or not being consistent enough, and that's understandable, because at the end of the day, coaches coach and players are the ones that have to make the plays, right? But I'm really tired of the onus being put on the players and not on the coaches when it's very obvious. See, Everyone wants to complain about, well, we don't have enough talent. We don't have enough talent at this position or that position. When in actual reality, you need to look at your talent pool, whether it's offense or defense, and you have to make a decision on what fits best scheme wise for that particular unit. And guys got to stop being let off the hook for that. See, it's not necessarily about what you run as a coach. It's what your talent will allow you to run. And you have to do the best you can to get the best out of the talent you have on your roster, which sometimes means tailoring your scheme to the talent and what they do best. If more teams did that, they'd have a little bit more consistency. But if you have a coach on your staff that is not going to do that and continue to pound his head against the wall, thinking he's going to receive different results as ownership, you have to look at that and say, maybe it's time for you to go. We'll see, because there's a lot of teams that are facing this type of situation, namely the Washington Redskins. Well, we thank you so much for listening. And again, if you have something you want to hear talked about on this show, you want me to talk about something in my final thought, shoot it over to me at straightshootingst@gmail.com, and we'll be glad to take a look at it and put it on the show if it's good enough. If you want to get at me and talk shop about your team or just about what's going on in the league, maybe you have a question, a concern, something like that, you can hit me up on Twitter at NotBland21. That's NotBland21. Again, we thank you so much, and we will see you guys next time right here on the Breakdown.